Hello, everyone. Welcome back to OTD Military History. Today, we are going to be looking at, again, another depressing but important topic is the war crimes carried out by members of the 12th SS. A fair number of those murders took place in an area we're going to get to see real quick. And there's a lot of them, and this isn't going to be the most extensive list. That'll be coming in a video later. That's going to take a lot of time to put together because there are just so many murders, 156 that we can pretty much know of, but not too sure. So for this, we're going to be looking at 4 areas in particular that I wanted to highlight and kind of get into. This isn't going to be so much the story of what happens at every one in particular. I just want to kind of bring some attention to these places because one's fairly well known. I think the rest are not. So I want to kind of talk about those and kind of cover this topic in a quick, accessible way. Kind of like I did with the D-Day Myths show that did really, really well. So I don't want this to go too long, and I'll try to get some questions at the end after I've kind of presented what I want to present today. So just want to start off with this map to get an idea of what the area we're looking at here. And I just realized I'm blocking some of the area I want to use. So what we're going to be looking at here is a few places, 4 in total. So we'll be looking at Authie will be the first one. That one's fairly well known, pretty well. And then we'll be looking at 2 over here. One is the Chateau d'Audry, roughly in this area, which today is a 5-star hotel in the little area outside Audry. And this one is Fontenay-le-Pesnel is one of them. That's not well known at all, unfortunately. And then another one that it doesn't fit on this map, but I wanted to pick this map because this is, as it says, last light on D-Day, and most people are familiar with this area and how it was kind of laid out at the time. But the other one is Haut du Bosq, which is southwest off this map. There's all the other maps, you can find it. You can see this road here real quick. It leads there. It goes right through there out of Cail, and it's just southwest of Carpiquet. So just want to leave that up for a second to kind of get everyone an idea of what the areas we're working with today. But yeah, so we'll cover those 4. And again, like I said, the rest will be covered another time. So just leave that up for another second there. I see some questions. I want to try and keep the questions to about the topic at the end. Just try to take a few because the longer these live streams go, no one watches them afterwards. And I want these to get more viewers, especially this one, because I think it's an important topic. So if we can kind of keep it to those, we can do another AMA another time. About some broad Normandy stuff or whatever you guys are interested in. So the first one, like I said, is going to be looking at Authie, which is fairly well known. Yeah, it's a well-known one. It's one of the most brutal ones out there. So these are some of the photos I took while there in my recent trip. Sorry, I'm just thinking for a second. I got footage and everything that'll be coming with the other videos. So this is roughly in the area where troops of the North Novas stop on the advance out of Authie to try and push on to Carpiquet, which is their objective. But they stop here to water and the tanks go on and outside the town. And that's where they run into the 12th SS for the first time. And then they also get ambushed inside the town. So it's not a very big place at the time, not a very big place now. Did a bit of wandering around there. It's changed quite a bit, obviously, since the time. But this park area is still the main area. It's also where the memorial is. So this is the one side of the square, and this is the other where the memorial is here. And this one building along the way here is where some of the worst atrocities took place. So along this road is what leads out to town there. You can see the tobacco sign there for the tobacco shop cafe thing. That leads out of town. So once this battle more or less ends and things like that, the 12th SS bring their tanks in and they run over the bodies of dead Canadians all through here and up further the road as well. Just on the other side of these buildings, which are now all homes and stuff. So I didn't really want to go wandering in there and poke around too much. But there's an area where some POWs were held, where a 12th SS vehicle that's being used as an ambulance is more or less purposely drives off the road to hit them, the wounded and the POWs, and kills a fair number of them. There's all kinds of executions going on in the back alleys and things of that nature in Authie and in the main square itself. And then they're also buried in various areas around the town. So again, that's just the same sort of area. It's quite a nice little place now. But on the day that this happens, it's a bloodbath. So, as a lot of you know, I have a history background, did my PhD in history, so I do a lot of archival research. So I was, before I left, getting the records of the war crime trials that took place. And I was able to find some maps of all the areas we're going to be talking about today. So this is the one for Authie. You're not going to be able to see the best on here, and some of the legends are elsewhere. But you can see certain letters, like there's A there. This H says 35 buried, so that's a mass burial of Canadians. I tried to pinpoint it, but again, this is the areas are now a school and houses and everything like that, so I wasn't poking around too much. This is the church in town, still there. It's battle damaged. And then this is the main square area where some of the fighting took place and where the North Novus had stopped before they got attacked. So this is in the war crime files, which I will get more into. But here you can see there's Biron, and then the attack came this way. And they tried to get out as much of town as possible. Company was set up outside and overrun. And that's when some of the war crimes started happening. And this one in particular, it seems the 12th SS weren't expecting to take any losses whatsoever. So that's, it seems to what drove them crazy to do these kinds of things. And they just took it out on the POWs. So Authie is really, really brutal. So it's a brutal one. The people in Authie have obviously remembered this. Sorry, just gonna go back here a sec. So this area is named this road. I don't know why I'm pointing. You can see this road here, and on the other side is named Place du 37 Canadiens. So a place of 37 Canadians, those who died in the town from the battle and being murdered. So yeah, that's what took place here in Authie. And again, I will be getting more details on Authie because it's one of the better known areas, because it's on the main advance, and this is where the advance comes through again on the push to Caen. But many civilians survived and saw what happened here. So it's a fairly well-known one at that. So this is in the war crime files. So this is the town today on Google Maps using satellite view. So this is the church over here that has the battle damage. Main little park here, like the town hall area. And this is a school, and these houses here are roughly where the that mass grave was. And why I say roughly is because I tried to overlay the war crime map, but it doesn't quite line up here. So you get a rough idea of the church. This is the little parkette square, that kind of thing. So it's hard to get it perfect, but I just thought it'd be good to kind of get an idea, and you can see for yourself kind of what happens here. Again, those letters indicate something bad happened. Yeah, and then that other one, there's that A is inside the building. They were even able to get it down to that level of detail. But that main road is right here. So it helps, and I will have footage from the ground best I can. And some of this area, like I did in the church and the square and in behind, and I tried to walk out a little bit, but like some of my other videos, and you'll see these places are very, very busy. So it's hard to get good footage just because there's a lot of cars and people, and the towns have changed a lot, which is a good thing, right? They've expanded, and there's, especially now, a lot of new homes being built, which surprised me in a good way. You just don't tend to think of this part of Normandy is, booming that way, right? So it was it's changed quite a bit, and I wanted to go to the area. I believe it's C Company that was cut off, but it's all houses now. There's nowhere to go. So to look in, So yeah, this is, I think, a really good way to kind of get an idea. And again, I'll be detailing this and labeling this all better in the other video. So this main road out here is to Biron and where the advance comes through. And this is where the tanks continue on down this road and start to have a bad time running into the 12th SS. So the next one is the Chateau d'Audry. So this is the memorial that's put up there. Just want to double check here. So the Chateau d'Audry was set up as the headquarters of the 12th Reconnaissance Battalion of the 12th SS under Gerhard Bremer, another one who wasn't brought to justice after the war. So you can see the long list of Canadians. It lists those who were killed at the Chateau and at Haut du Bosq, which we'll be getting to. And also, so it's mostly, as you can kind of see on here, I tried to zoom in a little bit, but it didn't look so good. It's mostly Winnipeg rifles, artillery, some engineers, and some Cameron Highlanders. And then 2 members of the Durham Light Infantry were also killed in the area of the Chateau, which is a large area. So this is actually closer to the town of Audry instead of the Chateau. Like I said, the Chateau is a 5-star hotel now, so it's not really. They talk about it a little bit on their website and things. I mean, I've heard them in the past. They really didn't want anyone talking about it while they were there, I think for obvious reasons. So yeah, it's not really something that goes on. And we'll see in a second here, I think, why they don't want any of this talked about, especially because they build themselves as a 5-star hotel and they have a pool and a tennis court, which the tennis court was there at the time. I think the pool's down here now, something like that. But this is this kind of almost oblong oval here is still all their property and even into the back. So again, all these letters indicate either places where murders took place or where bodies were found. So it's this whole area in behind the Chateau and around it where, again, war crimes were carried out. So again, I guess they don't really want a lot of that stuff going on, talked about and everything like that. But why I want to bring this one up is partly for that reason, partly because there's Brits killed here as well. I mean, 2 from the Durham Light Infantry, which sometimes gets lost in the story. This one, again, is a high number of those killed. I mean, I purposely am not talking about the Abbaye today, Abbaye de Hardin, because I've done a video on it already, and we'll be doing a separate deep dive into that one as well. So I want to make sure these ones get known. And this is definitely one that's not as well known. I mean, it is known, again, because there's still the hotel and the name comes up, right? So when you search it, it brings up the war crimes in the hotel. So this is another one, an area I couldn't really get into. I wasn't sure how that was going to go if I started poking around this area. I mean, there's a public path in behind it, but you can't really see much. But these paths are more or less still there. And they bill it as a way to connect with nature as you stay there. So a lot happened there as well. So this is the modern map, like I did for Authie. I did this for all of them. So you can see here the Chateau itself, and you can drive up and look at it. This is all their property as far as I can tell, all the way up to this main public road here. There's a little entrance over here. That's why I marked it. And then there's the monument is closer to the town itself than to the place it took, where the killings took place. And obviously it wasn't as big as it was at the time. That kind of goes for all these places. But yeah, then I was able to overlay it as best I could, so you can get some idea. The Chateau is actually pretty much unchanged, I assume, other than the inside. But yeah, it kind of give you an idea. I couldn't really line it up as well as I wanted to, but it'll work for now. But yeah, it's roughly the same. Hasn't changed too much. Yeah, a good number of them. So give me a chance to look at that real quick. Oops, I'm just going to put myself back on screen so you know I'm still here. Yeah, so this one, again, there's quite a bit of detail, all that good stuff. So I will be covering this one in depth as well. So this one is definitely not known, and it should be, because a lot of Canadians were killed in this area in particular. 35. Yeah, 35. Sorry, I just saw Willie's question here. Of course, Willie, let me know. You can send me an email, and I'll send you everything I got if you want. There's all kinds of stuff, and some stuff that if I put it on the YouTube channel, I'll get demonetized and possibly taken down because of violating the guidelines. But yeah, just send me an email or talk to me or Twitter or whatever. We'll figure it out. Okay, so sorry, this one, 35 dead, and it's not marked in any way, shape, or form. It's not really talked about, which is interesting because the war crime files has the most on pretty much this one, which is fascinating to me. And it's a lot of Canadians are killed here. So this is the spot. I mean, obviously, I think for obvious reasons, it's not anything remarkable, particularly in this area of Normandy. It's a farmer's field. There's lots of them. That's all a lot of it is, right? Pasture land and farm fields. This isn't bocage territory. This is wide open territory. So this is a field. Some Canadians were being marched away from the fighting, particularly outside La Maisonnelle Patrie and some other areas that we can look back to in a second. But they were pretty much intercepted by the commander. We'll get to him again. Wilhelm Mohnke, one of the most straight up psychopathic, nasty Nazis ever to exist, who died peacefully in his bed out there. And he basically intercepts them. And this is, again, why I'm going to have to go into really, really deep detail elsewhere. There's a whole series of events where other POWs are taken to his headquarters. He's basically pissed off. And intercepts these guys and says, just kill them all. And that's what happens here. We know the details of this one because, like I said, it's what is it, 35 dead? It's about 50, I think, off the top of my head. 50 or 60 POWs, maybe less, maybe 50. Because some get away because they basically, put them in a circle and then form a semicircle around them. So those at the back who don't get hit are maybe able to make a break for it. Some are captured again later, so their stories are captured, after the war. Some of them make it back to Canadian lines outside La Maisonnelle Patrie at this point. It's at Norrie, which is to the right on this photo, which I'm now pointing backwards. So over this way, I'll get to there in a second. So this is just the main road that cars whiz by constantly. It was hard to even get off the road here to stop here. But this is definitely the spot. I took a little bit of detective work to find it, both online and in person, but I was able to do it. So this is the map from the war crimes trial. So this is that main road you saw. That's the tree-lined one here. So that's this paved road here is this thicker line here. So it goes to Carpiquet. And then this road is no longer a road. I think it was just a farm trail at the time. And it is still today. I was able to kind of park off to the side because it was late. I didn't think anybody was coming anyway. So this is how I was able to determine where it was. Because again, these numbers, I think you can see this one better. Hold on, I'll just get myself off the screen here. These are graves. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 are single graves of various Canadians. So you have a Corporal Scott, Lance Corporal Brown. Sorry, I should have put my glasses on. Lance Bombardier. Can't talk. Lance Bombardier Grant, a Rifleman Lewis, and then this number 5, which is also bigger, is 31 Canadians buried in a mass grave, right where they're killed. So you can see that, where the troops make the break for it is through these fields. And I think, was it Jay? Yeah, Jay said not much cover, and there wasn't at the time either, but it was dark. So that helped them get away. They were able to escape in the dark. They started firing into the darkness. But yeah, it's another one that is basically not covered at all. And it's, I think, the biggest in one time of Canadians killed. Like, it's even bigger than the Abbaye. and there's nothing marking it at all. This area really is not marked in any way, shape, or form with anything, unfortunately, because you're kind of blending sectors almost here. This is closer to the sector built off gold, so this is more, Tilly-sur-Seine is British territory, quote unquote, as this is going on. So this is kind of the whole area where the 12th SS has set up its various HQs, and further in. That's why this happens the way it does, because Haut du Bosq, which we'll get to in a minute here, is where that other HQ is located. So, I mean, the accounts of this massacre are heartbreaking of what happens. It's just, the details are harrowing. So this is it today. So this I was able to identify. This is not a road here. That's the farm path, and then that's into La Fontenay. So it's just on the side of the road, tree line road. And you got nothing to tell you. So this is the map put over it again. So I was able to identify what was what on the day. And again, couldn't line it up perfectly, but gives you a good idea of what happened. So this one is very well unknown for all kinds of reasons. Haut du Bosq isn't really a place name anymore. It's a tiny little collection still. It was at the time of houses. It's like almost a village in that sense. I don't even know if it's an official name. This is just what it's called. This is where Moncke set up his headquarters, 26th, sorry. 26th Regiment, 25th was Meyer. So this is it. It's somebody's house now. So I didn't want to poke around because this is me on foot. I'm really nowhere to pull off my car at the time. So there's not much to see. There's a fence up, so I didn't want to be poking around in there. But this one, again, is very, very undiscussed, I'd say, in a lot of ways, other than the memorial at the Chateau. They're up the road from the Chateau where it's mentioned. Again, there's nothing marking this. This one took a while to find. This photo's not the best, but it just shows you the middle part of the field. And I'll show you why I'm showing the field in a minute. Again, a lot of Normandy, it's a lot of pasture and farm field. Yeah, so this is the map that's also in the war crime trials. So it's a bit hard to make out on the modern map. But again, you can see here, this one is marked with some features because it was a farm at the time, kind of as it is now. So things like there was a water pump and bodies were found and all that kind of stuff. So this is where he had his headquarters. So he's moving, Moncke is moving between here, which is, like I said, further south there, which is pretty much southwest of Carpiquet, and Le Mesnil, why he's moving around, because the fighting's taking place further up, right, at Puteaux and Nori and places like that. So he's moving around a lot, but this is where it is. And this is, again, the modern area here. This is where I parked my car and the cows came to look at me. Up here, this is it here. This area is that farm. And then there's the houses down in here, or house down in here. Very inquisitive cows in this area. They were all coming to look at me. But yeah, it's not a very well traveled area. So you can kind of see this main road here is marked here, and this kind of farm road at the time comes up here off the main area. But this is it as best as we can tell. So those are the areas I wanted to cover, just to kind of bring these to attention, talk about them in terms of what happened there very briefly, right? Like you have what happens at La Fontenay is just a massacre straight up in the field. Haut du Bosq is a couple at a time. Same with the Chateau. And then Authie is basically another straight up massacre in the middle of the town. Sorry, I realize there's nothing on the screen. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it's Authie is very well known, I would say, in terms of this. I would say most of these are not known. The topic itself is not well known. Canada or anywhere really, especially Canada. It's unfortunate that this is hardly discussed at all. And there's all kinds of reasons for that, and talked about that before. And maybe we can get into that in another time, but or in a separate video or something. But I just kind of wanted to bring these attention around roughly the time that the events happened. This would have happened a few days ago, 80 years ago. But then again, the killing does continue on later as well. It doesn't really end until the 17th, 17th, 18th, again, as far as we know, of June 44, when the killing really stops. But it goes on for a long time. Like I said, 150 Canadians were killed as a result of all of this violence. So I saw there were some questions here, so I can poke around to these real quick. I want to make sure I covered all of these. Okay. Sorry. Okay, okay from David. Again, thank you for the support of the channel. Were all the bodies found because of murders, or were some from fighting in the wooded area? That's a good question. So this would have been for the Chateau. I'm not too sure about the discovery of the bodies, to be honest, at the Chateau. I think some are done later, because I kind of gave a quick read, because this is, again, a lot to cover in a short period of time before I left. I was literally in the archive with this stuff for a day, just looking at this and some stuff with the vaginas. And I don't remember exactly. I remember them taking them to places like those that were witnesses and things like that. That's something they could do. But I'm not entirely sure how the bodies were found and what circumstances. But I can definitely get into that for the later video. But for the Chateau, I'm not entirely sure how the discovery of the bodies goes. But I will have an answer for you later on. Sorry, I'm not sure what this one is in reference to. If you could repost what that area is, because again, there's 35 at Fontenay. Authie's around 40. Well, it's 37, but again, there's some. It's hard to calculate these things exactly. I'm not sure at the Haut du Bosq. It's not as much, but it's a fair number, because that's Moncay's headquarters, and he was a straight up psychopath. And then the Chateau, there's quite a bit. I couldn't find an exact number in the time I researched this morning. But again, in the later videos, I will have this done for you. It'll be extensive. Yeah, I mean, this is why I wanted to do a quick live stream, not do too much, and because I'll watch it afterwards, is to kind of get some of these lesser ones known, along with the Abbey d'Ardennes and other ones as well. So that's a good question. I can cover that very briefly, kind of. So, sorry, one second. So for those who just might be listening, did the 12 transfer from the Eastern Front? Kind of. So the officers, some of them, and the NCOs, a good chunk of them, come from First SS. So that's the Liebdenstadt, Adolf Hitler. I've gotten terrible at German. Andreas has helped learning German. Liebdenstadt, Adolf Hitler. So that's the original SS division. They come from there. They're brutalized on the Western Front. Eastern Front and all that stuff. I mean, most of them were brutal thugs to begin with. But no, the 12th it's as we would call in the British Commonwealth prevalent language is other ranks are actually former members of the Hitler Youth. It's a bit misleading, because people say, oh, they came directly from the Hitler Youth, and the majority of them, that's not the case. That was not true. We have all these records and interrogations and all that stuff, and the SS records themselves, a lot of them survived. So a lot of them were just former members. They were younger. They were about 17, 18 when the division has started in 43. Yeah, so they are young, but then again, the Allied forces are young too. So that's not uncommon. And they're not just SS devotees and all that stuff as well. There's transfers from the Luftwaffe and a few other places to fill the ranks, because they couldn't fill the division. I did a live stream, and I'll link it afterwards, with Phil Blood, who gets into detail about all this stuff. It'll answer any questions you have. Sorry. Just trying to make sure I got everything here. Yeah, I know, Andre. Sorry, Andres. I know I'm trying. I keep forgetting, and I have your well, we've never met in person, but your voice, quote unquote, in my head saying, "Say it the other, flip it." Yeah, yeah. So yeah. No, there's nothing I can do, and there's nothing special to do. It's broken. I try to post on social media about stuff coming up, Twitter and Blue Sky, and on here. So make sure you have notifications for this on. It seems you do. So I'm not really sure. This one was kind of impromptu because I had an idea this morning, and I wanted to get this one out. Did you read the book of Kurt Meyer? No, Grenadiers. No, I have not read it. It's available online, actually. I think from Open Library, somewhere. I found it somewhere. Maybe in Open Library or Internet Archive. Anyway, I mean, a lot of it's false. We know it's demonstrably false because it doesn't match any other records. And it's just a lot of Nazi SS apologia, which we know is what he did literally after he was released from prison. Oh, that was a question I missed. Sorry. So yeah, Kurt Meyer is convicted of war crimes connected to Authie. Authie and the Bay-ish kind of sort of. Anyway, so he's sentenced to death by shooting. Most people think it's hanging. It's shooting. Doesn't really matter, but I like to throw that in. That's commuted to life in prison. Whatever. He does prison time in Canada, New Brunswick, Dorchester Prison, which is a very old one at the time. But then he's released later on due to trying to improve relations with West Germany and bring them into NATO. They wanted their quote-unquote people back. And Meyer was one of them. No other leaders. Monkey is not convicted in any way, shape, or form. He's held by the Soviets for an extended period of time. People think some have said that was enough. I don't think it was even close to enough. There was some rumblings about exchanging Meyer for him because the Soviets wanted Meyer for things he had done on the Eastern Front, which again, his devotees deny. But those are documented too. And Monkey goes on to do other things. He's at the Führer bunker at the end of the war, blah, blah, blah. He's a hardcore Nazi, no different than Meyer. So Meyer, after his release, becomes basically a spokesperson for this organization that tried, they don't exist anymore, I don't think. Or maybe in people's basements. To basically try to rehabilitate the image of the SS, that they were just regular soldiers doing their job, blah, blah, blah. And all this murder is just made up, or it was the way of war, and that's the way things should be. So I try not to use Meyer's stuff because I just know it's unreliable and all that good stuff. So no, it's not the best to use when it comes to this stuff, especially because there's other accounts and other things we can use to understand that. Yeah, documentaries about them. The SS, yes. I mean, that's how they start, right? They're Hitler's bodyguard, quote unquote. They were street thugs. They were used in the battles in the streets. So how the Nazis took power. That's why I was thinking about this morning, and all this stuff about how violence is used to gain power, and that's exactly what they did. And all that stuff. I don't know why I was thinking about that this morning, but it's what I do. Okay, so I'll take any more questions, fire away, and I'll get to them. A few more if you guys have them. Was this type of behavior towards POWs a cultural thing within the 12th SS? Yeah, for a good chunk of time, yes. It seemed to be hit or miss, but a lot of it seemed to depend on who the subordinate commander was. Like, the subunit had a lot to do with it, and conditions and things like that. But there's no real killings later on. But again, they're constantly getting pummeled. So they were not really able to do that, and they didn't really take that many POWs later on as well. These are the encounter battles. Things were not done properly in a lot of the ways by the Canadians, and they paid for it. So, but that said, yes, this is the general behavior of the SS, particularly in the East. War crimes are the norm. This is what they did. Civilians, POWs, doesn't matter. Right, the Germans starved millions of Soviet POWs, so shooting them out of hand was nothing to these guys. And yeah, brutal. I mean, then you look at the first SS, things like Malmedy, all that stuff. So it's a standard behavior. Yeah, I mean, Meyer gets so much attention for being this dashing soldier. They literally call him Panzer Meyer. Someone said the other day, I think on social media, should be Murderer Meyer, which he should be. He shouldn't be known for his dashing tankiness because he didn't actually do a lot of that. A lot of that is possibly made up for propaganda reasons, or the things he did in the East. He tried them against the Canadians and got walloped, things like Breckville. So again, I'll get into that when I have more time, but it's just me. So a lot going on. Yeah, Meyer was terrible. Awful man. He deserved worse than he got. Yeah, and Order Land is Das Reich. So that's the second SS. Excuse me, where they go into a town and wipe out the town, more or less. Kill everybody. Town is unoccupied. Yeah. I forget the name of the subunit commander. But yeah. So sorry, I didn't go back real quick. Only one of this whole area that we're talking about. So all these other murders, places that like Norrie and Brettville and Cartonville and all kinds of other murders. Only one is convicted and executed. I forget his name. He's a company commander. I can't remember. It'll come to me later unless somebody knows now. He's the only one. He's actually tried by the British because the Canadians closed down their war crime section basically after Meyer. So the British take over and they try him and have him executed. Which again, I will cover this stuff in detail later on. Off the top of my head, I should have wrote that one down. I didn't. I saw it while I was researching and just completely forgot. I can find it and post in a comment afterwards. But yeah, so this is a brief introduction, very, very brief, only half an hour. Adolf Diekmann. Yeah, he did. That's Das Reich. Yeah, Adolf Diekmann. He dies in Normandy. Sorry, I just saw a bunch of questions pop up. How soon did the Canadians know, and what was their reaction? Canadians on the ground knew fairly quickly about a good number of them. Like yesterday was the anniversary of La Mise en Patrie. It would have been today, 80 years ago, they found out that some of their comrades were executed. Again, working on a video on that as well. Some of the details don't match up with later work saying, we knew they were executed, and at the time they said they didn't know they were executed or they weren't sure. But some of them I do know for sure ran into them because they saw their hands were bound and shot in the back of the head. Yeah, it's roughly around this time, 80 years ago, they would have been finding them on the ground. Back home, this isn't found out until pretty much after the war. And again, on the ground at the time, it depends. I can take a quick second on this one. You hear stories, all kinds of stories. They don't match up with the documentary evidence. Again, we don't know all of the details. You hear that once these things were found out, units didn't take SS prisoners, which is untrue. That's not true at all. We know because there's records. There's interrogation records, and those who survived after the war, right? We know that that's not true. So we hear all these things. I've heard some nasty stuff. Again, if I say it on here, the video will get demonetized, therefore hidden, and no one will see it. But yeah, it's you hear things of what the Canadians supposedly did afterwards, and we're never going to be able to confirm any of this because they're all gone. Yeah, as far as I know, it's always secondhand, right, or third hand, or my grandfather told my uncle, or my grandfather told me. You hear a lot of that, but it's really unclear what actually happens on the ground. I know when it came to combat, if they wouldn't surrender, they were happy to oblige them in how they wanted to go out for their Fuhrer. I'll say that much. So I can only speak for Canada. No, nothing at Nuremberg. Not really. Canada is supposed to carry out all of these war crime trials. Meyer is supposed to be the first of many, and all kinds of reasons it's closed down. The Canadian section's closed down. It's folded into a British one. Canadian one sprang from Schaef's, which is the overall command. It's complicated. I'm gonna have to do something separate on that, completely on its own. The trials and everything. It's so complicated. Anyway, yeah, okay. So that's all for now. I don't want to talk anymore because nobody will watch. So if you can, and you're enjoying this work and you think these stories are important, be told, please do support through YouTube membership, Patreon, super chats, whatever you can. I know I keep saying this, but I do need help to keep these going. And there's a few things I'm going to talk about maybe on social media later today about why I think this is important that we do it this way. Canadians need to tell our stories. We have other people telling our stories. I don't like that in the sense of Canadians should be telling stories more than other people should be telling them, right? I'm not saying people like James Holland shouldn't be telling these stories. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we should be telling these stories too. We should be the voice saying them the most. I know it's hard to do because I'm doing this for years and I know why it's so hard. And we keep coming up with excuses, but we can do this. We can keep this going. I need your help with OTD if you want to keep these kind of things going. Yeah, I'll stop talking because World War II TV is coming on. So I'll let you guys all go. But again, if you can support, please do. It is very much appreciated. And I will post some of the details I missed. Oh, well, I appreciate that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You can always do it afterwards in a comment. Would be great. I'll turn on all the monetization stuff. Maybe that's why it's not working. Anyway, so I'll let you guys go. But thanks for coming. Thanks for hearing about this, and more details of this at a much deeper level will be discussed. So other than that, have a good rest of your Wednesday and head over to World War II TV next. Bye, everyone.